Hey everybody, it's me, Randy Ray, and this is The Literate Texan, where we talk about books and literature, highbrow to lowbrow, and everything in between. We're not snobby here. Today, I've got a video offering 100 different options for books that you can read in a single sitting in an afternoon. And the reason for this is it's Shorty September. Shorty September is a YouTube or BookTube event where you try to read 30 books in 30 days. And so the parameters that I look for, and I put hours and hours of research into creating this list. But the parameters that I'm looking for, probably from about 80 to 100 pages at the shortest. You know, it does need to be long enough to qualify as a book, to 200 pages at the longest. You know, it's got to be short enough that you can finish it in an afternoon. I'm a slow reader. I read about 200 words per minute. So that limits me quite a bit. Most of the reading that I do these days, I know people like to hold up books, but most of the reading that I do these days is on my Kindle because eyesight's fading a little bit and I can control the size of the font and also the color of the background. My vision picks up stuff a lot better with a black background and white letters. So I've got 100 options for you here, and I haven't read all of these, but a lot of them I want to read. Some of them I've never even heard of. But at any rate, we're going to do a tally. I like to count things and I like to make lists. And I think most people do, or at least most people watching my channel do anyhow. So I'm going to make a list here, or at least I'm going to count off how many of these 100 books that I've researched I've actually already read or know anything about, okay? So, and I've got them put in categories. I'm going to put all the books in a big list down below. Probably 75 to 80% of these books are in the public domain, which means you can get them for free. All you have to do is go to one of these websites where you know, like Project Gutenberg, where you can get free copies of ebooks, and then you could just upload them to your Kindle or whatever reading device that you like to use. So yeah, but I've got them divided up into categories. I'm going to list those categories as we go along. The first category is 19th century classics, which happens to be one of my favorites, okay? So your 19th century classics, the first one I've got on my list is a book called Flatland by Edward A. Abbott. It's about 130 pages. It's a satire of math and geometry and social commentary. It's a novella that follows a square who discovers dimensions beyond his own. Okay, I don't know anything about this. This doesn't sound like a gripping read to me, but if I'm wrong, let me know, okay? Flatland is the first one on my list, and that is not a book that's number one on my list, but that's not a book that I'm familiar with, okay? The next three, okay, though, I am familiar with, okay? And these are three of the four Sherlock Holmes novels, okay? And these I put in here myself, okay? So in the Sherlock Holmes canon, you've got a total of 9 books, okay? There's 4 novels and 5 short story collections. The short story collections are a little too long to read in a single evening, but the novels are not. The novels are generally pretty short. I did not include Valley of Fear because it's not that great a book, but the other 3 Sherlock Holmes novels are really good. The first one is A Study in Scarlet, okay? And that's about 120 pages, okay? That was the first Sherlock Holmes story. So it's kind of foundational to the canon, especially if you're into detective stories. And it introduces us to the character of Sherlock Holmes, which the most famous character created by Arthur Conan Doyle, but certainly not his favorite. You know, he wrote a lot. He wasn't quite the Stephen King of his day, but he did write a lot. And he wrote about a lot more than just Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes, the oeuvre, probably constitutes about 10% of his work. But number 2 on the list after Flatland is A Study in Scarlet. Number 3 is The Sign of the Four. That was the second Sherlock Holmes novel. It's a classic lockroom mystery. It also introduces us to Watson's wife, Mary. I believe Watson, you know, they've done studies on this sort of thing. I believe Watson was probably married multiple times. I think he was married at least twice. And both times to a woman named Mary. You'll figure, right? But I've seen speculation he might have been married more than that. I don't know. That's beyond the purview of this video, though. And in Hound of the Baskervilles, which is about 190 pages, it's the longest of the 3 Sherlock Holmes novels on here, and it's just dripping with atmosphere. And quite a bit of it is mostly just about Watson continuing the investigation while Holmes is off doing his thing. So anyway, you can't go wrong with any of those. They're really good. If you're into 19th century literature at all, and I am, those 3 Sherlock Holmes novels, you're not gonna go wrong. I'm looking at my computer over here, by the way, if you're wondering. I had to take copious notes, okay? So number 4 is a novel called Carmilla by Sheridan Fanu, and it's about 110 pages. This is a story about a female vampire. And I think there's some pretty distinct lesbian overtones. I have a hard copy of this around here somewhere that a friend of mine actually bound in goat leather from one of his own goats. He's a real interesting guy. You've seen him on the channel before. His name's Forrest. But I don't have that copy sitting around here anywhere, and I haven't read it yet. When I do read it, I'm not going to read the beautiful copy that he made for me, though. I'm going to read it off my Kindle, okay? So that's number 4. Number 5 is called Cousin Phillis by Elizabeth Gaskell. Elizabeth Gaskell was a pretty popular novelist at the time. I've got 2 on here from her. Number 6 is Cousin Phillis. Number 7 is Cranford. And like I say, those are both by Elizabeth Gaskell. The first one's about 110 pages. The second one's about 160 pages. The first one is a coming-of-age novel about love and heartbreak, set against the backdrop of the Industrial Revolution. And then the second one, Cranford, is an affectionate portrait of life in a small English town. And it's filled with gentle humor and sharp observations about women's lives. So those sound good. I would read those. I haven't read them, and I'm not familiar with them, but they sound interesting enough to me. What about you? What do you think? Please, if any of these sound really interesting to you, please say so in the comments. And if you've read any of these and have an opinion about them, I'd like to know. Please give me tips and hints about what I should be reading too, because what I wanted was a lot of options this year for Shorty September. Okay, so number 8, 9, 10, 11 are all Charles Dickens books. You don't generally think of Charles Dickens as having written shorter novels, but he wrote a novella for Christmas every year. I don't have the years attached, but The Battle of Life is number 8. That's one of Dickens' less well-known Christmas books, and it's a story about family, forgiveness, and reconciliation. So those are Christmassy themes if I've ever heard of them. And then, and of course, Charles Dickens is famous for A Christmas Carol, but he wrote several other Christmas stories. Number 10 is The Haunted Man by Charles Dickens. It's a darker meditation on memory, loss, and whether forgetting pain would rob us of our compassion. So that sounds pretty interesting too. It reminds me of Captain Kirk in Star Trek V telling Sybok, I need my pain. It's part of what makes me who I am. I'm guessing that The Haunted Man, they're going to come to a similar conclusion at the end of it, but I don't know. I haven't read it yet. Number 11, of course, is A Christmas Carol, which I have read. So, ping, we're going to mark that. Everybody knows what A Christmas Carol is about. It's about Scrooge, and it's about the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. And it's not that long. It's only about 90 pages, but it's really good. It's really, honestly, one of the best things Dickens wrote. The Cricket on the Hearth is also a Charles Dickens one. A domestic Christmas story centered on love and happiness in the home, with the cricket as a symbol of good luck. So there's your 4 Christmas novellas from Charles Dickens: The Battle of Life, The Cricket on the Hearth, The Haunted Man, and A Christmas Carol. And then is that number 12? Yeah, number 12 is Silas Marner by George Eliot. Ping, I've read this one. I read this in junior high, actually. They call it middle school now, not junior high anymore. But Silas Marner is written by George Eliot. It's a fairly short novel. It's about 180 pages, and it's about a weaver, a basket weaver. I believe it's a basket weaver. They may just be a weaver. They just may weave blankets. I don't remember that part very well. But this weaver gets betrayed and isolated and really kind of screwed over by his best friend, and manages to find redemption through love, and it's really, really good. I do remember loving Silas Marner, and I loved Silas Marner back when I wasn't as interested in 19th century literature as I am now. So, and then we get into some more adventurous stuff. The 19th century was great for adventure stories. And the king of the adventure novel, of course, Arthur Conan Doyle wrote great adventure novels, but the king of the adventure novel in those days was a novelist called H. Rider Haggard. H. Rider Haggard wrote King Solomon's Mines, which you've heard of if you haven't read. And it's about these adventurers go to Africa. There's a lost world and untold riches from the past. Really, really good. Introduces the character of Allan Quatermain, who's a big game hunter. Kind of a prototype for the adventurer that you see in Indiana Jones movies. Number 14 is called She, A History of Adventure. And that's a really great one, too. Again, it's about a lost tribe in Africa that's ruled by a woman named She Who Must Be Obeyed. She's like 1,000 years old. It's really good stuff. That's number 14. Number 15 is Allan Quatermain. You know, the character was so good that he didn't just get one novel. He got several novels from H. Rider Haggard. And the self-titled one, Allan Quatermain, is actually a prequel to King Solomon's Mines. So there's 3 from H. Rider Haggard. You know, these all run like 190 pages or so. And he wrote a lot more than just those 3 books. You know, do a little bit of research online, and you can find plenty of free H. Rider Haggard books. I've only read King Solomon's Mines and She, but I'm gonna mark those. Ping, ping. All right. Allan Quatermain I haven't read yet, but I want to. Daisy Miller, The Turn of the Screw. The Turn of the Screw and Daisy Miller. Those are both by Henry James. That's number 16 and 17 on our list. I've read The Turn of the Screw. I have not read Daisy Miller. Turn of the Screw is a ghost story, as indeed are the Charles Dickens Christmas tales that we talked about. But yeah, these are Henry James, pretty famous novelist, and these are pretty short novellas though. Daisy Miller is only 90 pages long. It's about an American girl in Europe exploring her innocence, also exploring gossip and cultural clashes. Sounds interesting enough to me. The Turn of the Screw is about it's a psychological ghost story, and you know, it's one of those ghost stories where, you know, it's not entirely clear whether there was supernatural or not. You know, it's left open for your interpretation. It's really good stuff. One of the more literary ghost stories in the history of the genre. And then you get into the Herman Melville books. There's 3 of those listed here. Herman Melville's great, but mostly people think of Herman Melville for writing really long novels like Moby Dick. But he also wrote the Piazza Tales, which is a collection of short stories that comes to about 160 pages. And then there's, that's number 18 on our list, the Piazza Tales. Number 19 is Benito, Cereno by Herman Melville. It's about 130 pages, and it is a chilling novella about slavery, rebellion, and perception based on a real mutiny aboard a Spanish ship. Okay, yeah, I'm in. I want to read that. I'm going to read that this month. That sounds really good. And then number 20 is Billy Budd. Billy Budd's 120 pages long, and it's pretty famous too. It was published after Herman Melville died, and it was not completed. But it's about a sailor named Billy Budd, and it has to do with him being disciplined and how he's disciplined after he acts. You know what? I don't want to get into too much spoiler territory. Let's just say he doesn't get along. He's a good guy, but he doesn't get along well with every other sailor on the boat. And that's the first 20, okay? And I think every one of those is in the public domain so far. So, yeah, you can just go find them on Project Gutenberg and have yourself a field day. But that'll take you through 2/3 of the month right there. Number 21 is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It doesn't need an introduction, right? Robert Louis Stevenson. It's only about 100 pages. You know, pretty classic tale. It's not really a werewolf tale, but it is a tale about alter egos. And it kind of set the stage for the Incredible Hulk, the werewolf, even Psycho has to do with, even what I read just recently, The Killer Inside Me. You know, these are all can trace some of their inspiration back to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's number 21. Number 22 is The Jewel of 7 Stars by Bram Stoker. It's 180 pages. Bram Stoker, of course, is well known for writing Dracula, but The Jewel of 7 Stars is, I understand, really good too. It's about an Egyptian mummy. I have not read it yet. Okay, number 23 is Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. And number 24 is The Duel, also by Joseph Conrad. Those are both between 100 and 120 pages. Heart of Darkness is probably best known as being the inspiration for the movie Apocalypse Now. And in The Duel, I don't know anything about it. It says it's a sharp novella about 2 Napoleonic officers whose petty quarrels escalates into a lifelong feud. Okay, that sounds interesting. I'm in. I want to read The Duel by Joseph Conrad. So I'll probably read both of those this month. Okay, so that was 23 and 24, Joseph Conrad. Then At number 25, we start getting into H.G. Wells, and I've read a bunch of these. The Time Machine, I read last month, okay? But I didn't read it as part of Shorty September. I read it as part of Rocket Summer, where we read science fiction from the past. Okay, The Time Machine's really great. It's about a guy who invents a time machine and goes into the future and does not find in the future what he expects. If he found what he expected, it wouldn't be much of a story, would it? And then number 26 is The Island of Dr. Moreau. I've started this one a couple of different times, and for some reason I've never finished it. Don't understand why. It's only 150 pages. What I read of it was really good, but sometimes I get distracted, folks. I just do. Number 27 is The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. I also haven't read this one. And number 28, not only have I not read it, but I've never heard of it. It's called The First Men in the Moon, and it's another H.G. Wells, but it's about the first people to explore the moon. So that sounds pretty interesting. But that's not all. There's more H.G. Wells to come. Number 29 is The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The War of the Worlds is great. I have read this one. Ping! We're going to mark it on my little tally here. So I have seen The War of the Worlds and read it, seen the movie versions. But my favorite version is the radio version that Orson Welles narrates. And keep in mind, this whole list is going to be down here, so you can consume The War of the Worlds in any capacity that you like. But it's probably good to read the book and definitely to check out the radio play, and then any of the movie versions are worth checking out too. So number 31 and number 30, okay, number 32, number 33. These are all from Oscar Wilde, okay? So The Picture of Dorian Gray is number 30. It's about 160 pages. Read that one in high school. I like The Picture of Dorian Gray. It's pretty neat. If you haven't read it, you probably know what it's about. It's about a guy who doesn't age, but he's got a picture in the closet and it ages. The Importance of Being Earnest is a play, which I've also read, but it's been a long time. I couldn't describe the plot to you if you held a gun to my head. And then there's Salome. This is a one-act play from Oscar Wilde. Retells the biblical story of Salome, notorious for its decadent style and shocking themes. And then number 33 is The Happy Prince and Other Tales. Bing read this one too. That's a collection of fairy tales. My daughter Mary's a big fan of The Happy Prince and Other Tales. Okay, so that's 33 books in the first category, and that category is basically Elizabethan 19th century literature, okay? So then we move into the next category I've got. This is Russian and European short novels, okay? Now, I'm going to be a lot less familiar with these, but you might be more familiar with them, I don't know. So like number 34 is Notes from the Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I've heard of it, but I haven't read it. Number 35 is The Gambler by Dostoevsky. Same thing. I've heard of it, but I haven't read it. I understand that Dostoevsky actually did have a gambling addiction. So even though this is fiction, he knows what he's writing about here. Poor Folk by Dostoevsky. Never heard of it. Don't know anything about it. The Eternal Husband by Dostoevsky. Another one I don't know anything about. And that's it for the Dostoevsky. That's number 37. Number 38 is Effie Briest by Theodore Fontaine, sometimes called the German Madame Bovary. Tells of a young woman trapped in a stifling marriage with tragic results. Okay, sounds interesting enough. And then number 39 is The Sorrows of Young Werther by Goethe. Okay, I've heard of this one, but I don't know anything about it. I certainly haven't read it. If you know anything about it, put a comment. Number 40, A Hero of Our Time by Mikhail Lermontov. Don't know anything about it. Number 41, First Love by Turgenev. Okay, now I've heard of Ivan Turgenev, but I don't really know anything about him. I'm really displaying my ignorance in a lot of these videos, but that's okay. We're friends. I like y'all, and I hope you like me, even though I don't know as much as I'd like to. Number 42, Spring Torrents, also by Ivan Turgenev. Number 43, Fathers and Children by Ivan Turgenev. Number 44, The Devil by Leo Tolstoy. I think everybody's heard the name Tolstoy, but I'm not familiar with The Devil. Number 45 is Family Happiness, also by Leo Tolstoy. Another one I'm not familiar with. Number 46, The Kreutzer Sonata by Leo Tolstoy. I don't know anything about this one either. Number 47, Haji Murat by Leo Tolstoy. Another one I don't know anything about. And that wraps up the Russian and European ones. So there were about 14 there. I think almost all of those are in the public domain too, though. So, yeah, I could easily spend half the month just catching up on Russian and European novels, I guess, short ones. And then the third category we've got here is American short stuff. The Awakening by Kate Chopin, a landmark of early feminist fiction. I don't know anything about this. Telling of a woman's struggle for independence and a desire in the late 19th century Louisiana. Okay, I don't know anything about it. It's probably good. Number 49, The Old Maid by Edith Wharton. So I've heard a lot about Edith Wharton. I've been meaning to read Edith Wharton, and I haven't gotten to it, but I know there's several more on the list from Edith Wharton, too. Forgive me, my voice gets dry. Okay, so, yeah, I guess Edith Wharton wrote a series of novellas called the Old New York Novellas, and The Old Maid is one of those. Number 50 is Ethan Frome, also from Edith Wharton. I've heard of that. I hadn't read it. Summer by Edith Wharton. Another one by her I haven't read. The House of Mirth, the shorter edition, 200 pages, right at 200 pages. And these page numbers are all estimates, by the way. It depends on the edition. And then that's it for Edith Wharton. Most of those are in the public domain. I think now we're finally getting into some stuff here that's not necessarily public domain, but it's pretty easy to find cheap versions of them. Number 53 on our list here is Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. I haven't read this. I have a copy in my other room, though. But I have seen the movie, and it was really, really good movie, especially if you can get over the part where Mickey Rooney plays an Asian, but he's very stereotypical Asian. So, yeah, Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. Number 54 is Seize the Day by Saul Bellow. It's 120 pages long. I don't know anything about it, but it's about a single day in the life of a failed actor. And it's got a mix of comedy, pathos, and human struggle. Okay, that sounds good. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. If you're into Gothic stuff, you're probably going to like anything from Shirley Jackson. That's number 55. I always thought that book was longer than this, but it looks like it's only 160 pages. I haven't read it, but I know about it. Number 56 is The Sundial, also by Shirley Jackson. It's a little longer, 180 pages. And then we're going to start getting into some stuff here that I'm also familiar with. It's The Ballad of the Sad Cafe, okay, by Carson McCullers. And I read this last month. It's a collection of short stories. The first one is not really a short story. It's a novella. And it is Southern Gothic to the Southern Gothicist, okay? You've got this woman, and she's got a distant cousin who's a dwarf. She's got an ex-husband. The dwarf is in love with his cousin, and they live together, and not as roommates either. And but when her ex-husband comes back into town, well, let's just say the dwarf's crazy about him too, so things get really weird there in The Ballad of the Sad Cafe. And now I'm having trouble getting my pages to scroll down in my notes here. Okay, so bear with me while I figure this out. That was The Ballad of the Sad Cafe. I'm really into Southern Gothic, but not everybody is. It's funny and weird all at the same time. Carson McCullers also wrote The Member of the Wedding, which is 190 pages. And I don't know anything about it. I did read The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, which is great, but it's not long enough. Oh, I forgot to mark down The Ballad of the Sad Cafe on my tally here, okay? So I'm up to 15 books. So, yeah, but The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, it's too long to be included on this list, okay? So then we're moving into still Southern Gothic here, Flannery O'Connor, a book called Wise Blood, 190 pages. Flannery O'Connor wrote 2 novels and a whole bunch of short stories. Excuse me. And I don't know anything about Wise Blood, but I've read a bunch of her short stories, and they're really great. Yeah, really humorous, really black humor if you like that sort of thing. Number 60 is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I have not read that, but everyone I know who's read it really likes it. It's satirical, and it's an allegory, and it's about farm animals. but it's not really about farm animals, if you know what I mean. They symbolize something else. That's why it's called an allegory. So I don't know. I've never gotten too excited about it. I loved 1984, though. It's too long to be included on this list. Number 61 is Anthem by Ayn Rand. It's a dystopian novella. I haven't read anything by Ayn Rand or Ayn Rand. I don't know if I'd like it or not. I have my doubts. I think that probably comes through in my delivery here. But now we're going to get into some stuff that I really do love, and that's John Steinbeck. Number 62 is Cannery Row, which I just love, and I think you will too if you give it a chance. Of Mice and Men is also by John Steinbeck. Cannery Row is about 190 pages. Of Mice and Men is 110 pages. Of Mice and Men will rip your heart out. It's wonderful too. That's two more. Ping Ping. And then there's The Pearl by John Steinbeck, which I haven't read, but it's very short. It's 100 pages. The Red Pony, another one by Steinbeck that I haven't read. It's 90 pages. One of my goals in life is to read all of Steinbeck, and I've barely scratched the surface. He wrote a lot of stuff. Tortilla Flat by John Steinbeck is also on the list, 190 pages. And then we slip into a couple other guys that I've read recently. Nathaniel West, The Day of the Locust and Miss Lonely Hearts. And I've read both of these this month. And I haven't reviewed them yet, but I am going to review them. I'm going to review them with my friend James at Quaint and Curious Volumes. And we're going to do a live review, probably where we talk about both of them. But Nathaniel West is an interesting author. He died really young. I think he was only 37 years old, and he was killed in a car crash. But he was good friends with the guy who wrote The Great Gatsby. What was his name? F. Scott Fitzgerald. Yeah, he was good friends with F. Scott Fitzgerald. So, yeah, The Day of the Locust is about people who moved to Hollywood, and basically they're all trying to be celebrities, but most of them don't have what it takes. It's earlier this century, too, so some of them are either vaudeville stars or former vaudeville stars or the sons and daughters of vaudeville stars. There's a dwarf in this one, too. There's a cockfight. It's pretty crazy. Miss Lonely Hearts. Miss Lonely Hearts is a real bummer of a book. Luckily, it's really short, but it's about a guy who writes for the New York Post, and he's a man, but he writes the Miss Lonely Hearts column, which is the advice column for the New York Post. And the people who write in, they're writing in during the Great Depression, so you can just imagine how heartbreakingly awful their stories are. And I'll have more to say about that when James and I talk about it. He did do a review of Miss Lonely Hearts already over on his channel, and it is definitely worth checking out if you haven't read it already. Then there's The Bridge of San Luis Rey by Thornton Wilder. I don't know anything about that, but I have heard of Thornton Wilder. I understand he's great. Number 70, Nightwood by Juna Barnes, a modernist classic exploring love, sexuality, and despair in expatriate Paris, admired by T.S. Eliot. So, and that's it for that category, the short American stuff. So that takes us up to number 70. And then the next category, let's see, what have I got next? 20th century international stuff. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. There's The Third Policeman by Flann O'Brien. I've heard of Flann O'Brien. I think Flann O'Brien is an Irish author, or maybe Welsh, I'm not sure which. The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka is number 72 on my list. The Metamorphosis is about a guy named Gregor Samsa. He wakes up one day and he's a cockroach. Okay, and I've been corrected on that before. He's not a cockroach, he's an insect. Depends on how you want to translate it. If you want to translate it badly, you're going to call him a cockroach. Number 73 is The Stranger by Albert Camus. I have read this one at the suggestion of Clifford Lee Sargent at Better Than Food, who runs a great channel. If you haven't seen Clifford Lee Sargent review books at Better Than Food, you should check him out. He's into some weird stuff. But yeah, he's the one who recommended The Stranger to me. He also recommended The Moviegoer, which is not on this list. Number 74 is The Fall, also by Albert Camus. I have not read that one and am not familiar with it at all. The Little Prince by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. I'm sure that I'm mangling that pronunciation something awful, but I do have a copy of that. It's always making these top 100 lists of great books. So I got a copy of it just because, you know, I wanted to get another check mark when I do one of these lists where I check these things off. But yeah, I haven't read it yet. I just bought a copy of it. Number 76 is Bonjour Tristis by Francois Sagan. Okay, don't know anything about that. But I guess the author wrote this when they were 18 years old, so it might be worth checking out for that reason alone. And then, okay, you don't think of Jane Austen necessarily as having written short books. She's got a fairly small oeuvre, I believe about 6 novels, but a couple of her novels were fairly short. There were a couple of novellas. One of these is Northanger Abbey, which I used to carry at my bookstore. It's Northanger Abbey is a spoof of Gothic novels. And then there's Lady Susan, which is a short epistolary novel showcasing Austen's wit. I think all of Austen's writing showcases her wit. I've read neither of those, although I've started Northanger Abbey, just never finished it. Number 79 is The Man Who Was Thursday by G.K. Chesterton. I absolutely love that title, but I haven't read the book yet. And I have multiple copies of it laying around here too. I don't know why I haven't read it yet. Number 80 is The Napoleon of Notting Hill, also by G.K. Chesterton. Don't know anything about that book. Number 81 is The Good Soldier by Ford Madox Ford. Okay, I've heard of it. I haven't read it. Number 82 is Siddhartha by Herman Hesse. I have read this. In a lot of ways, it's just a retelling of the Buddhist story. But it was really, really good. It's also really short. It doesn't take long to read, but it's pretty entertaining. And then there's a book called Demian by Herman Hesse. It's about 160 pages. It's about a psychologist coming of age. No, it's a psychological coming of age story, exploring identity, morality, and the search for authenticity. Okay, that sounds interesting enough. And I like Siddhartha enough that I'm willing to give Herman Hesse the benefit of a doubt and read that one too. So let's see, what's next on the list? That was what number was that? Are y'all keeping up with the numbers? I'm not. That was number 83. Number 84 is Klingsor's Last Summer, also by Herman Hesse. 3 linked tales about art, beauty, and mortality, written during a turning point in Hesse's life. Okay, I'm in. Like I said, Siddhartha was good enough that you got me. Number 85, Green Mansions by W.H. Hudson. Don't know anything about it. It's a romantic adventure novel about a traveler in the Venezuelan jungle and his love for the mysterious Rima or something like that. I don't know. Like I said, my eyesight's going bad, folks. And then number 86 is The Fox by D.H. Lawrence. I haven't read anything by D.H. Lawrence yet, but I've been meaning to for a long time, so this might be the perfect entry point for me. I like short stuff that packs a punch. I think a lot of people do. Number 87, The Prussian Officer and Other Stories, also by D.H. Lawrence. Okay, so that's a collection of short stories. I like collections of short stories by single authors. And number 88, The Enchanted April by Elizabeth von Arnim. Don't know anything about it. The Haunted Hotel is number 89 by Wilkie Collins. I know that Wilkie Collins is a pioneer of the mystery and detective novel, but I don't know anything about this particular book. The Haunted Hotel by Wilkie Collins, number 89. Number 90 is The Moon Store, the shorter edition, also by Wilkie Collins. I've heard about this one multiple times too, and it comes highly recommended from several sources. So the Moonstone's kind of high on my list of options that I'm really interested in. Obviously, I'm not going to get to all 100 of these in the month of September, but next year we'll probably do Shorty September again. Number 91, The Ballad of Reading Gaol by Oscar Wilde. And then number 92, Ward Number 6 by Anton Chekhov. Number 93, The Duel by Anton Chekhov. Okay, so I haven't read any of those, either of those Chekhov books, but I have read some short stories by Chekhov, particularly The Necklace was really good. I really enjoyed that one. Number 94, The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. Definitely read that one. And it's good. Yeah, it's as good as everybody says. The Torrents of Spring, also by Ernest Hemingway. Never heard of that one, and that's odd because I like Hemingway. A Movable Feast, the shorter edition by Ernest Hemingway. Okay, I've been meaning to read that one for a long time. And my ex-girlfriend, who I talked about in last night's video, had a first edition, beautiful first edition copy of A Movable Feast that she wanted to sell me, but I wasn't willing to pay top dollar for it. And she wasn't willing to sell it for less than top dollar. Number 97, The Lonely Londoners by Sam Selvin. Don't know anything about that. Number 98, Pudd'nhead Wilson by Mark Twain. This is definitely on my to-be-read pile for the month. Pudd'nhead Wilson is a book that was recommended to me countless times by my Aunt Marty, who was just the most wonderful woman and was one of my earliest reading mentors. And Pudd'nhead Wilson is something I definitely want to read. And then there's number 99, The Man That Corrupted Hadleyburg by Mark Twain. I don't know anything about that one. I do know about Pudd'nhead Wilson. Pudd'nhead Wilson is about, there's two children, one of whom is like 1/16th black or 1/32nd black. The other one's not. And one of the moms swaps them out. The mom that's 1/16th black swaps the babies out as infants. And hijinks ensue. You can imagine what happens from there. It probably doesn't contain a lot of surprises. But the lawyer in the book is called Pudd'nhead because he's really eccentric, and a lot of people in town tease him for being kind of dumb. Finally, number 100 on this list of options for Shorty September, books that you can read in a single afternoon, is The Call of the Wild by Jack London, which, as far as I know, might be the only work of great literature that's told from the perspective of the dog. Okay, so that's it. So out of all of those, how many have I read? That was 100 books, and I read 5, 10, 15, 17 of them. 17 of 100 books, which isn't many. So I've got some definite catching up to do. Even if I skip the 17 that I've already read, that leaves me with 83. If I read 30 shorties this month, that'll leave me with 53. I'll still have some left over for next year and the year following that. So yeah, I hope this video is as good a resource for you as it is for me. Like I said, I'm going to put the list of books along with the 2 other booktubers that I mentioned down below in the comments or in the description. You're going to put in the comments what I should read, what I shouldn't read, what you're surprised that I haven't read yet. Anything you want to say to me, tell me in the comments, because I love talking to people and I reply to all of them. Until next time, I want you to do 2 things for me. Stay sexy, folks, and please stay hydrated. It's really important for your health. I promise.